What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and you know I'm critical of any console or any platform in any way, shape, or form that does something dodgy or sketchy or just absolute straight up bullshit. Something I've been focusing on a lot lately because, well, there's pretty much a lot to criticize about it is the Nintendo Switch. And there's multiple different reasons and all, but I won't get into them here. But some new information has been announced today that is, well, it's worth criticizing, and it's very, very questionable because one console has done this before and it's flopped famously. So let's go further into what I was saying anyway. Well, it turns out that NBA 2K18 on Switch, now this is a game I've previously talked about before because, yes, it's only available digitally at launch first in September and will be or not announced, but will be released in physical game card form on the 17th of October. But the point here is, okay, that it makes me first off, it makes me really happy that this is official now, because you have a lot of people in my other video about this talking specifically about the digital and physical staggered release date who say I'm wrong despite going off of 2K's official info. And now that every website like Amazon.com, GameStop.com, everywhere has been updated to actually reflect this, which makes me extremely happy because, well, I was right. Now, the point here is, anyway, that we're going to actually get back to this, is that the physical version of this game, when it releases next month in October, on the 17th of October, it is going to require you to have an internet download and micro SD card just to play the full content of the game. What they have said, what 2K Games have said, is that in order, even if you buy the game card version, the physical version of this game on Nintendo Switch, you will have to own a micro SD card to download the rest of the game. It will not allow you to download it onto the actual internal storage. You are required to have a micro SD card. They've said that a portion of the game will be playable if you don't have the micro SD card, or you can use this portion of the game while downloading the patch or the rest of the content or whatever. But the point is that if you want the full version of this game, you now have to spend extra money to buy an extra storage device, because as we've already proved, not every game can even fit on the Switch. Remember Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 comes as a bundle? Yeah, if you buy the digital version of that, it doesn't fit on your standard Nintendo Switch. And now physical games are requiring this as well. And people are going to say that I'm lying or that I'm wrong or that whatever about it or it's unconfirmed. Well, first off, Nintendo of America have came out and officially announced that there's a box art change to indicate this. So now, as you'll see here, any game that actually full on requires you to have a micro SD card, even in physical form, to download a bit of the content to get the full version of the game, not just a portion of it, will be reflected on the front of this box. So here's what Nintendo of America had to say. They had a big statement about the whole thing anyway, but I'll read it out for you here. A micro SD card will be needed for certain Nintendo Switch games that contain an especially large amount of content and require additional storage for players to enjoy the full experience. If you purchase a physical version of the game that requires an additional micro SD memory card, you will be able to play a portion of the game right out of the box, for example, specific levels or modes. To enjoy the full game, downloading additional data is required. Depending on the storage requirements for each game, it may be necessary to purchase a micro SD card to expand storage space. When purchasing a digital version of the game, it may also be necessary to purchase a micro SD card depending on the game's storage requirements and the storage available on the consumer's Nintendo Switch console. Some Nintendo Switch games will require consumers to purchase an additional micro SD card to play them. Notice he said to play them. But anyway, I go back. Our expanded storage solution offers flexibility for those who need it to play these games. People can choose exactly how much additional storage space they want to buy, depending on the number and type of games they play, and the amount of content they plan to download. So first off, this gets sketchy and dodgy in so many fucking ways. Right off the bat, we've all criticized the Nintendo Switch for having 32 gigabytes of internal storage in 2017. I almost forgot what year it was for a second. In 2017. To be honest, it doesn't surprise me that it has 32 gigabytes, because if you ask me, they probably just took back all those Wii U's, took out the 32 gigs of flash storage that didn't sell because there was tens of millions of them that didn't sell, and put them in the Switch. But that's a pseudo joke almost. But the point is, this is why it's a terrible idea. First off, on day one launch day of the console, March 3rd, there was already a game that could not fit on the base Nintendo Switch digitally. This in itself is an absolute massive apparent problem. Now we're looking at games that will either require you to have a microSD card to download some additional space. If you go back to the Nintendo of America quote I had a second ago, you'll notice that Nintendo have specifically said that some games will allow you to download it to internal storage, and some will only download it to a microSD card. NBA 2K18 is one of the games that requires a microSD card. So the point here is, as there's also a big one I want to get to now in a minute, remember what other console or other handheld specifically did this and flop before launch. Now, I realize the Switch has a flop before launch, but when more and more things are becoming issues, especially something like this, when it comes to big third-party support, remember the Vita? Remember its proprietary memory cards that were exorbitantly overpriced? Yeah, that's kind of famous, or infamous at this point. And now let's get to another point of the quote that we read a second ago. Some games will require consumers to purchase an additional micro SD card to play them. So it doesn't say to play a portion of them. Some of them will straight up require it to play them. Now, this is all sorts of terrible and all sorts of bullshit. And here is where being a console gamer can backfire on you. If you boycott these processes, like if you watch my video that I made last night about the Bethesda Creation Club, on PC, we have the option and freedom to reject policies we don't like. We can not use them, we can go alternate routes and all as well, and we can go on about our lives while not giving into this bullshit. However, on a console you are more limited, because you're literally stuck with my way or the highway. So here's the problem. If you don't support this, I advocate you not buying this, because you don't support this practice. Personally, I don't care about NBA 2K18, but if I did, I wouldn't be buying it on Switch. And if I was buying it on Switch, I'd tell them to fuck themselves and die if they feel that they can jip me out of more money just because of whatever reason. But whatever reason is, we'll get to now in a second, or at least what I suspect it is. But here's where it comes down to so much bullshit. If you boycott this game and don't buy it, it gives 2K and Take-Two, the parent company of them, a license to say, oh, well, our games don't sell well on Switch, let's not make them anymore. Boom, they pull third-party support, it becomes a portable Wii U 2. So, that's a problem right there. Now, here is the other part I want to talk about that I just briefly mentioned just a second ago. So, onto that final reason that I just wanted to mention here, is this is something I've talked about multiple times before, and that is Nintendo pulling a Sony. And in the case of pulling a Sony, what do I mean? Well, let's look at the Vita comparison. They used overpriced specific games, and not just games, but overpriced specific storage. Storage is widely available. There's no reason they couldn't have used a micro SD card or something else equivalent of size or shape or form or whatever, but they wanted to gouge people on it to make money, and well, it backfired on them. So yeah, there's that. Now, here's where it comes to Nintendo Switch. Okay, yes, they have the micro SD card slot, which is like a very, very minuscule plus in their favor because of the whole issues with 32 gig of storage, because it's evident from day one that it is not enough, and they're just passing the buck on to the consumer. But here's the big deal. Because they're using a proprietary game card format, this game card format is not mass produced. It's not widely produced as much as anything else, any other format. It's not nearly as widely produced as micro SD cards. It's not nearly as mass produced as DVDs or Blu-rays. I know you can't put DVDs or Blu-rays into a portable system like this, but the point is, when something is mass produced as much as those other formats, it becomes exceptionally cheap to get them in bulk, because there's literally billions of them out there, and they're being made by the tens of millions every day. Whereas Nintendo Switch, these game cards are only made I'd say almost in demand for Nintendo Switch stuff. And that's it. We've already seen, because of the smaller production numbers, meaning the higher production costs, and of course Nintendo being the only place you can get these, it harkens back to the days of the NES, the SNES, and the N64. Remember when you could only buy those cartridges from Nintendo and they charged over the top exorbitant prices because they were the only places you could get them? And because of that, we've seen games on the Switch be more expensive on the Switch because of prohibitively higher costs of manufacturing and game card purchases for publishers and developers. We've seen it multiple times, and it looks like it's not going away anytime soon. Because by the looks of this, 2K Games have just said, okay, we can buy the bigger game card if it's even available, and if the big enough one is available for, X plus whatever amount of euro, or we could buy the smaller one for just X euro and then force everyone else to spend money and download it. Yeah, let's do that. So there it is. I don't even really know what to say. I've said everything about it at this point because it's just absolute scumbag shit, and no one should support this in any way, shape, or form. I recommend you boycott this game, but, well, you're putting your own future of your console in jeopardy at that point. Some people would say it's not a big deal, but it's the principle of the matter rather than anything else, because you shouldn't be forced to buy something because of terrible business decisions and terrible design decisions at the console manufacturer level. I'm just going to put it in as well just before I end this video. I have a Nintendo Switch since day one. I love it. I play the shit out of it. You can't call me a fanboy. This is an obvious, legitimate criticism, and if you think it's not, you don't deserve a Nintendo Switch. It's that simple. But anyway, let me know your opinions on the whole matter. Do you think it's bullshit that companies, developers, manufacturers can actually do this? Because, you're essentially paying full price for half a game, and then you have to pay a bit more just to get the full game. So, yeah. You know who doesn't do that? PC, Sony, and Microsoft. Badmouth them all you want. Yeah, enough said. So let me know all of that anyway in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.